If you're watching this video, it is because you're looking to make changes and create order in your environment, which is a reflection of how orderly your cranial universe is. Yes, your wonderful brain is asking for a change. When we created this workshop called UKO with 4 master classes for full activation, the first thing I did was to put it in practice in my life. Here in Vimes, everything that we teach is effectively tested, and in my case, the results were amazing. The truth is that when your brain is organized, everything around you becomes organized. As explained by Tao Rivallo, a psychologist who specialized in cognitive behavioral therapy, cleanliness and order greatly influence our mental health. Human beings tend to always search for balance, both internally and externally, and that has to do with our environment. If we look around, everything requires order, even in nature. So we're programmed for that order. I've experienced enormous changes in my life by applying certain things. I thought I was a very organized person, but the truth was I didn't realize I was rigid. So the question arises, what is the difference between being orderly and being rigid? Well, our health helps us to answer that question. If to keep your environment clean and beautiful and your life in order with an agenda and a good schedule, you end up with body pain, pain in your back, a tense neck, I assure you that you are rigid. You're not enjoying the process of being organized. This is a sign that enters your brain, and the brain then sends that message to your beautiful body, and there go the aches and pains. On the contrary, if you enjoy doing what you're doing while you're doing your chores, you fulfill your daily goals, you start by writing them down without spending a whole lot of time on it and no stress, then it means you're doing it really well. You're relaxed, and your body's like, this is good. It tells you when you finish your task to even applaud yourself and say, job well done. Now rest. That was my case. And then that was of the first participants as well, their experience of the Masterclass UKO, which is short for Organized Cranial Universe. From rigidity when organizing their environment and their life in general, they discovered that flexibility is the key, and they began to see with each workshop challenge that organizing can be relaxing and positive in every aspect. Now let's talk about the benefits you'll get by doing your UKO workshop. First, you'll learn simple techniques that are very effective when it comes to organizing yourself at home, work, or even with schoolwork. Your personal organization from this moment will be very different. The second is you will optimize your mental health while your environment is organized, achieving full balance. Remember, mental health is fundamental in every aspect of our lives. Third, you will enjoy the accompaniment of an instructor who's a coach. You'll have daily communication with her and with your classmates. This is something other online academies do not offer. You will have the skills to put into practice with your family and with everyone else who wants to. And we could also mention that the support material you receive is unlike any other. In the information of this Masterclass UKO, you have everything in detail regarding the benefits of doing this amazing, organized cranial universe workshop. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It's good to be back. Can you give me a thumbs up if you hear me good? I'm just going to turn my volume up a little. Now it's at full force, so you should be able to hear me fine. Good to be here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Karen Marinez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I help you identify, manage, and untangle your emotions. We get all wrapped up. Elvin says yes. Okay, I'm going to say hi in the chat. My computer's over here. That's why I'm looking at the information hubby. Elvin, we have my dear Cindy here. Imani, I saw your name. Welcome. Dr. Jesso, hello, hello. We're like 2 minutes off early, but we have 45 minutes because there's another presentation coming on this same channel in Spanish right afterwards. And so it's all right. We're going to take our time still. We're going to enjoy ourselves because we have to enjoy it. And we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. This is part one. Part two will be next week. And tonight we are talking about the wound of injustice. We've already done the wound of abandonment. We spent 2 weeks on that. And then we did 2 weeks of the wound of rejection. Good stuff. It's a hey from Houston. Good to have you. Welcome, welcome. So there's some good things going on. We're going to give people a few moments to get in. We have a large number of participants signed up for UCO for September 1st. I think it's 12 or 13 new ones, plus those who are coming back from the other class that we did in May. So it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It starts September 1st. So we're going to be ready and have a great time organizing our lives, our homes, okay? And I have to say, it's been really exciting. Some of my clients, my one-on-ones, have been texting me different things, what they've been up to and doing. Because remember when we did the abandonment childhood wound, our parents may have abandoned us, but the question was, how do I abandon myself? Right? And a lot of people saw that. Yolanda, hey, Yolanda from Palm Bay, Florida. Good to have you. Welcome. And people realize, ooh, yeah, I abandoned myself in different ways too. So that's what we want to tap into. How are we abandoning ourselves, and what can we do to show up for ourselves? What can we do to fill up our cup, which is so, so important? One client texted me, Deborah Owens, hey, good to have you. Welcome. One of my clients texted me earlier today. She's like, Karen, I won't be able to be on live tonight. I'm going to come on later and see the replay. She said, because I joined a hip hop class. I said, what? Go girl. I love it. That got me so excited. She's a mom. She's a wife. She works full time. Just the whole thing. And she's taking a hip hop class. She's like, yeah, I need to move my body. So why not have fun? And I'm like, do it, girl, do it. So it's really exciting. I love it. If you have a story, send it to me at Karen M as in Michelle Coach at gmail.com. Karen M Coach at gmail.com, because I'm excited to hear it. Or if you're in the chat, share it with us in the chat. What are you doing to show up for yourself, to fill up your cup? What lights your soul on fire? A lot of people don't know. So we need to try different things and see what it is. Okay. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. If this is your first time here and you're trying to put something in the chat, because I would like the chat to be really on fire tonight. A lot of questions I have. And you can't, oh, Yolanda already said it, like, subscribe and share things, Yolanda. I love it. I love the support. If you cannot get in the chat, it's because you need to subscribe. Wait about a minute, press the subscribe button, wait a minute, and then you'll be able to get into the chat, because I want to hear from you. If you're here, even if you just say hi and you say nothing else, I just want to know you're here. Okay, so everybody, welcome. Good to have you. So as I said before, we're talking about the wound of injustice. Okay, there are 5 emotional wounds. We've dealt with abandonment, rejection, and here's the third one, the wound of injustice. Today and next Monday will be part 2, because there's so much to dive into. So I'll tell you just a few things. Hey, Roxy Ebony, good to have you. Thank you for being here. So it happens during childhood, very interesting detail, between 4 and 6 years old, usually from the same-sex parent. Abandonment is opposite-sex parent, rejection, same-sex parent, and injustice is same-sex parent. Very interesting. And again, all of this, hey Sheila, good to have you. All of these details is so that we can get to know ourselves. It's like we're looking in a mirror. Do I have this wound? Most of us have a little bit of all of the wounds. because our parents were not perfect, right? So they didn't do it on purpose, but things happened, or the way we perceive things, right? However, there are usually two or three dominant ones that we all have. And it varies, of course, from person to person. So the details that I'm giving is so that you can look in the mirror and say, is that me? Is that something that I have going on? Is that one of my wounds? Notice I said one of, and there's no shame because we all have them. The thing is, be assured that you can heal from it. But in order to heal, you have to know what it's about, right? So we're going to self-reflect. Hey, Orlando and Brittany. Andrea, you're here. Good to have you guys here. Lovely. All right, so let's get started. The wound of injustice, same-sex parent. It comes when a child feels they're not treated fairly or equally, and they're being compared to others. It can develop in an environment where authority figures like parents or caregivers are rigid, critical, very demanding. They have very high standards that the child, notice, perceives are difficult to meet. So again, it's the child's perception as well. How does it form? When a child feels that their emotions, needs, or efforts are not recognized or valued, right? So a child who constantly strives for perfection to please their parents, but they still get criticism. They get 100. I spoke to a man, and I've mentioned this before. It's just so interesting. Grown man, and you could still see the hurt in his face. He said, I would bring up my report card home or a test home. It said 100%. His father would look at it and say, you couldn't do better than that. And he would look at his mother like, how can you do better than 100? Yeah, the child strives for perfection, and the parent still is not pleased. There's still criticism that comes, and it's unjust. And especially imagine him, he's a man, his father did that to him. There's that wound from an early age. It can also happen when in an environment where there's constant comparison between siblings. Why can't you be like your cousin? Why can't you be like your big sister? Why can't you be like the neighbor? And it promotes or reinforces the perception of inequality, right? Injustice. So the child's opinions were not validated. And so they don't feel comfortable. They don't know how to express themselves or be themselves with that parent because it's always constant criticism. Is this resonating with anyone? If it's resonating, put it in the chat. Okay. If you have questions, put it in the chat. All right. But this is interesting. The person with this, I got excited and my mind just went blank. I get so excited when y'all are here. When a person suffers from this wound, it's a fear of emotional coldness. And it's a cognitive rigidity. It could be difficulty accepting the reasoning of others, difficulty acquiring different perspectives. The person's just like this, rigid, strong sensitivity and reaction to situations that the person judges as unfair, again, their perception, and then perfectionism raises its head in the situation. Okay. People are asking questions. That's awesome. Imani says yes. Dr. Justo says yes. Brittany says, can this be experienced with opposites? It can be experienced with opposite sex parents, but it's more profound when it's the same sex. Excellent question. And Chica MB from Fort Lauderdale, we got RBNUY, RKR. I know how you are, I know who you are, but it's like, does she want me to call her out by her real name? Let me call her what she has in there. From Arizona, hey, good to have you. So a rigidity, that's the psychological defense against the wound of injustice. Rigidity, having problems accepting realities other than one's own. If you've ever had a conversation with someone and they will not give in to reason, it's possible that they suffer from this wound of injustice because their way, their rigid way, is the only way. Very interesting. People with Renee. Okay, Renee. Hey, Renee. Okay, I'm like, does she want me shouting her out? People with individuals with the injustice wound fear rejection, and they feel they aren't good enough for most people. That makes them feel like they're not worthy of receiving love. So these individuals may assume, and this is really, that they're not allowed to ask for support. Why? Because they don't deserve it. Now, that's painful to hear, but I experience a lot of clients saying the same thing. I don't deserve it. I want the help, but how dare I ask for it? But it makes sense. If you have a parent that's constantly criticizing, and you're never enough, why would you think that now in adulthood, you have the right to approach others and ask for help, assistance, friendship, whatever the case is? Okay. So let's look at it in adulthood. What does it look like? What are the effects in adulthood? So we can see it, because here we are as adults. What does it look like? Number one, perfectionism. People with this wound often become perfectionists. They're constantly trying to prove their worth to avoid feeling inadequate or unfairly treated. I'm going to repeat it, constantly trying to prove their worth to avoid feeling inadequate or unfairly treated. They want to look like everything is perfect in their life. It's a facade, but that's what they want it to look like. So perfectionism is at the core. Number two, emotional rigidity. They may be emotionally distant or cold, believing that showing vulnerability will make them more susceptible to injustice, because it's unfair to be compared to others. It's unfair to give something your all and someone still doesn't accept it. They still want more. They're demanding more. And you're like, I gave it my all. That's unfair. It's unjust. And that's where the wound of injustice comes from. So I don't want to get close. I don't want to be vulnerable, because you may do the same thing to me and I'll suffer injustice again. Truthfully, though, it's an injustice to do that to yourself, to keep people away, right? Strive for perfection, which doesn't exist. It's very hard to maintain, right? But we do it to ourselves, and now we know why, right? Three, extreme self-sufficiency. I can't trust others to treat me fairly. Nope. I only can depend on myself. Strong sense of self-sufficiency. People are begging, let me help you. Nope, I got it. Nope, got it. Keep everybody out, because I can't trust. You may try to treat me that same way like my parents did. I'm sorry, I'm looking over here because this is my screen. I should be looking here. This is where you all are. I do it all the time. All right. Number four, sensitive to criticism. Because of the unjust experiences from their childhood, they're very sensitive to criticism. It makes sense. It makes sense. Who would want more criticism after they've received so much and constantly throughout their childhood? Number five is difficulty expressing emotions. They may be cold because they repress themselves to avoid conflict or judgment. If there's conflict or judgment, I'm going to be treated unfairly, and I don't want it. So I just I don't share, I don't say it. So injustice, the mask that you put on is rigidity, rigid, cold, perfectionism, high standards, repress and suppress emotion. Okay, now this is something, I'm going to quote this because I'm just going to read it because it's very interesting. It says, if the same-sex parent is harsh, cold, and critical during the development of a child's individuality, the child separates themselves from their sensitive side and tries to become as efficient and perfect as possible. Look at that, efficiency and perfection. The mask of the injustice wound is the rigid mask. The most important characteristic of the rigid mask is that they are perfectionists. They don't like to ask for help or admit that they're in trouble. They can act cold, insensitive, envious, and angry. According to the rigid, knowledge is more important than feelings. They don't like to feel and show their sensitive side because this might mean losing control and being perceived as less than perfect in the eyes of others. And again, that perfection that's what they're striving for. They want everything to be fair and justifiable. When they're at fault, though, they easily justify themselves. They don't see how unfair they can be to others. The rigid is always optimistic and dynamic, even when they're sad and tired. They hate admitting they're sick, and they often brag about not seeing the doctor or using medication. They have a tendency to engage in self sabotage. They have very extreme demands from themselves, and they always aim to reach beyond their boundaries. They don't like lazy people. And the greatest fear of the rigid is coldness, and the greatest need is freedom. Their bodies are stiff, well proportioned with a straight posture and flat stomach. I haven't mentioned that, but our wounds are even displayed in the shape of our bodies, in our voices. It's very interesting. Our most dominant wounds. They talk in a sharp and mechanical way. They carry lots of tension, especially in the neck, back, and flexible parts such as knees. They can suffer from burnout, dry skin, nervousness, insomnia, and poor vision. Ah, interesting. I have a question. Joanna McLeod, hello, welcome. Good to have you. Here's a question. Olanda says, could you give us an example of self-sabotage? Of course. I'm gonna have a dinner party, and it has to be perfect. But I go out the night before and I stay too late. I come home, I'm exhausted. I didn't get to do what I wanted to do to make sure everything worked out. And the party doesn't go as I planned because my perfection would have caused me to have everything lined up just so. But something is missing. Something doesn't happen that I had planned. And why? Because I self-sabotaged and I didn't come home instead of going out. I should have come home, rested, did my last grocery shopping. One of the meals I wanted to cook wasn't done because I didn't have time the next day to get to the grocery store, get the items, cook it, set it up, prepare it. That's just something that comes to my mind quickly. But self-sabotage is that what you're aiming for, your wounds hold you back from getting them. Here's another example with this wound of coldness. I want a good relationship with my children, but I push them away. I'm cold. What was done to me, I criticize them heavily. They stay away. I'm not approachable, but I really want a good relationship with my children, but I keep doing the things that keep pushing them away. And I messed up again. That's self-sabotage. You're sabotaging, messing up your own goals. It's not someone on the outside doing it, you're doing it. And it could be that you don't think, this is a hypothetical example, the person doesn't think they deserve to have a relationship with their kids. They didn't have it, they didn't see it. And so who am I to have a good relationship with my children? Or they're going to break my heart or whatever is going through the person's mind. So I'm going to keep them away too. But it's a vicious cycle because I still want, and I feel so bad when it doesn't happen. I want that relationship, but I just can't make myself behave good enough to form and have a good relationship with my child. Does that make sense? Is that sufficient for self-sabotage? And it's a terrible thing because it's all right if somebody on the outside does it to me, but then if I do it to myself, the frustration is real. Yeah. So that's why we have to examine our wounds. We have to get down to the nitty-gritty so we know what we're working with and we can do better. We can heal and make the changes. So let's talk about that, managing the wound of injustice. How do we manage it and heal it? Okay, I have 3 things to start with. Recognize the wound. That's number 1. Olanda, you got it. Great. And it's so good to ask questions because if you're thinking it and you're wondering, someone else is wondering, or whoever sees this on the replay, they'll be wondering. They say, oh, yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had been there live to ask it. And Olanda asked it so perfect. The first thing is recognize the wound. right? How can we heal something if we don't even acknowledge that we have the wound? Acknowledge that it exists and that it's affecting your current life. If you saw yourself in any of what we described in the last 17 minutes, make a note of it. Recognize this is a wound that I have. Make the connection. If you're female, my mom, that's what, if you're male, my dad. And if it's kind of there, but it's not so strong, it could be that you're female and it was your dad that did it to you. You know, you had the feelings of injury, that constant criticism from him. All right, so first it's recognizing that which this is our principal wound or one of the wounds that we suffer from. Number two is accept vulnerability. This is hard. Ooh, this is, Cindy says she felt that one. It's a great example. It's good. Okay, glad you got it. Accept vulnerability. That word is hard for some people. Expressing emotions in a healthy way is crucial. Learning to accept and express your emotions. Because again, zip, suppress, that's what we've learned. Because anything I say is going to be judged, it's going to be compared, it's going to be attacked. So the less I say, the better. The more quiet I am, the better. And I'm just in my own little zone. But in order to heal, to manage and heal from this wound, you have to learn to accept your emotions. We've learned here that we have to accept all emotions, pleasant and unpleasant, because they're simply messengers that come to teach us something. That's all. They're just here to teach us. They're messengers. Okay? And then we have to learn how to express them in a healthy way, not screaming, yelling, attitude. Neutrally express our emotions. It also means allowing ourselves to feel pain. Some people don't like pain. No, they'd rather run away from it. Sadness, anger, without self-judgment, because those are like negative emotions, but we want to call them unpleasant emotions because they're all there to teach us something. But in order to do that, we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. It can be such a challenge if all our lives, again, with this wound, we are self-sufficient. I don't need anyone else in this world. I can only depend on myself. Everyone else lets me down. They judge me. They're unjust to me. They don't treat me fairly. I'm going to only rely on myself, but we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. My cousin is here, my Leah. Hello, Leah. And she's commenting messengers to teach us something. Thank you for coming. It's good to have you. Number three, develop self-compassion. Practicing self-compassion helps us notice this, to soften and quiet the inner critic and develop a kind of relationship with ourselves. Very interesting. Here we go. I didn't like that. My mother criticized me all my life. I knew it was unjust. She made me feel inferior. She compared me. And then here I go, and that inner dialogue all day, every day, is doing the same thing to me. So I'm upset that my mom treated me like that, but I do the same thing to myself. And it's like, it's because that's how we were trained, right? But we have to stop and we need to develop self-compassion. Listen to this quote from the Dalai Lama. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. And I agree. We need our bodies, our brains, our souls require love and compassion from others, but principally from ourselves. Now, that's where we want to be self-sufficient, where we can take care of our emotions, be in touch with them, recognize them, accept them, welcome them without judgment, process them without anger, not running away, processing them, learning the lesson, hearing the message loud and clear, and allowing them to leave us, right? Being loving and compassionate, we have to do that for ourselves as well. All right, we have some comments. That's a tough one, vulnerability. I know it's very challenging because we don't trust. We've been taught not to. If I can't trust my mom who birthed me, if I can't trust her to treat me fairly, how can I trust anyone in the world? That's my mom. But there are people who are trustworthy. And first, you have to trust yourself. And to do that, developing self-compassion. We're going to talk about, for the rest of the time, we have about 20 something minutes, we're going to talk about how to develop self-compassion. It's a really good topic. Okay, I got a few comments. Imani says, very hard for me to feel the pain. I fight against it, been holding it in all these years. Now it's manifesting because it's going to come out. And it could be an illness. The body, the body is shouting. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score. Phenomenal. The body has to let the emotions out. If we keep suppressing. I'm glad you're here. So you're learning how to do it. Renee says we do it to ourselves what was done to us. And it's so we have to stop, but we don't know it until it's brought. And that's the purpose of this. Like, oh, that's, yeah, I say the same. I do that to myself. We have to recognize it first, and then we can change. Dr. Just so basic needs, not luxuries, exactly, love and compassion. My Jimena, mi hijos, está aquí. Very interesting information. Me escribiste en inglés también. Felicidades, bienvenida, mi amor. Very nice. Leah, amen to that. The body keeps score. It manifested in me with 3 strokes. Yes. So we have to pay attention. We must pay attention, because if not, oh my goodness, it's no good. And we want to start being more loving to ourselves. So how can we develop self-compassion? You're like, because if we've never seen it, if no one ever treated us with compassion, how do we know how to treat others with compassion? Let's start. The A part. How would you treat a friend? Okay, so maybe probably the single best way to provoke compassion for yourself is treating yourself like you would a good friend. For most of us, it's easy to give our friends love, compassion, understanding, even when they fail or make a mistake. Like, it's all right. I mean, look, we're human. It's okay. Come on. I'll pick you up. Don't worry about it. You need my help. And we go on and on. Oh, we can overextend ourselves for everybody else, and we're over here and we're over there. We do it, right? But it's so much harder to extend that same understanding and compassion to ourselves when we make a mistake. Why? Because it wasn't done for us. That's why. It was nothing wrong with us, but now we're learning to do things better. Like Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better, right? I have 2 quotes for you. It's an unknown, oh, PJ, stop the pain before it reaches the body, yes. Here's a quote. And if I asked you to name all the things you love, how long would it be before you named yourself? I love that. Wow. Can you write it down? If you're taking notes, write that down, because I want you to ask yourself that. And if I asked you to name all the things you love, how long would it be before you named yourself? And another one is, I'm so afraid of disappointing the people I love, I often forget that I'm someone I love too. And I need kindness just as much as I believe the people I love do. Nikita Gill, Gill is the last name. But we have to be compassionate and loving to ourselves. How can we do it? Think about times when a close friend felt really bad about something they did or something they were struggling with. How would you respond to your friend in this situation? Especially when you're at your best. It's a great day for you. And can you put it in the chat? Just imagine someone made a really big mistake on their job and they're like, oh, I messed up. My boss was so upset. What would you say to them? And what would you say? Can you put it in the chat, please? And then I want you to think about the times that you feel bad about yourself and you're struggling. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? You messed up really bad on the job. Oh, my boss is so mad. Right? Leah says she would say, it's okay, we're all human. And now write in the chat, how would you respond to that same situation if it were you? We want to see, is there a difference in what you would say to your friend? Oh, Dr. Just so don't worry, how can I help? Nice, sweet. Oh, we could be sweet to other people. Oh, we're the best. We're wonderful people. Yolanda said, it's all good. He'll get over it.
says the retired woman here. But it's true. We all make mistakes. He'll get over it. Can you fix the mistake? Fix it, right? And you hope that's his attitude too, right? But now, what do we say to ourselves when those things happen? Sometimes we can be very critical. And so we could see the difference between, Imani says, I always say it's okay, we all make mistakes. Yeah. So if we notice a difference between what we say to others and what we say to ourselves when we make the same mistakes or we have a bad day, right? Sometimes we have a bad day ourselves and it's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, yeah, Imani. Stupid me. Yeah, harsh. Harsh. And you would never say that to someone else. Oh, PJ, quit before they fire you. That's what you would say to yourself. Roxy, I can't believe I messed up. Yeah, Leah says she's working on that negative voice. On bad days, she talks horribly. I'm slow, I'm stupid, horrible. Yeah. Olanda, you again. Yeah. What a difference. You see the difference, Cindy? Love. Yeah. What? So we're talking to our good friends, or sometimes not even good friends, it's coworkers. He'll get over it. It's okay. Mistakes happen. You'll be all right. But when it's us, oh, harsh criticism, and I mean, ooh, and it just, oh, it just keeps going. The words, just the worst of the worst. So that's the first exercise to help us to see: am I showing compassion to myself? And when we hear that inner dialogue that's negative, how could I have done that? Yeah. When we hear that negative dialogue, now we'll be more aware of it. And instead of sinking and let it plummet, we say, no, what would I say to a good friend that this was going to? It's going to be all right. He'll live. He'll get over it. You're going to be okay. You want me to pick you up something from the store? Or if you're that type of person, a gift giver or something, you go and you get them some flowers and you drop it off at the house. Just thinking about you, just something to perk you up. I know you were feeling down. Why can't we do that for ourselves? Go and get ourselves some flowers. Cheer ourselves up. Be kinder and compassionate to ourselves. All right? It's really important. Because again, mom or dad may have done it to us and we had no control over that. But how horrible and talk about unfair would it be that now I go and do the same thing to myself and I can control myself. But a lot of times we do it and we're not aware. So that's the whole purpose of these lives, so that we can become more aware and do better. Okay? Can't be that bad. Let's talk about it. Exactly. And B, the other thing to develop self compassion is to have a self compassion break. This was interesting. It's another good exercise to help you improve your understanding and love for yourself. So, for the first thing, you bring to your mind a situation in your life that's causing you stress or pain. I know that's easy for us because we all have. Think about the situation and how it makes you feel emotionally and physically. Does it make you tired, stressed, angry, sad, disillusioned, disappointed, frustrated, whatever it is? Some people feel physical pain. You may feel it in your chest. You may feel anxiety. You may feel literal aches, pain. Someone in the chat talked about strokes 3 times in her life. She's a young person, right? Where do you feel it? How do you feel it? Now did you have that situation in your mind, get in touch with the feelings associated with it. And this is what you say to yourself: this is a moment in my life that I'm suffering, but it's a moment. It's not for an eternity, right? Or this hurts, or yeah, this is stressful, or ouch, oh, he said that, she did this, right? And what it does is it's allowing you to get in touch with the feelings associated with the situation. Because again, a lot of us just run, we stay busy, we're all over here in everybody else's lives, and we're not taking care of this right here, me, right? Here's another thing we could say: suffering is a part of life. It's an unavoidable part of life. And you could say, but I'm not the only one suffering. I'm not alone. We all struggle in our lives. Other people feel this way too, especially if we're also judging ourselves for feeling stressed, angry, whatever the feelings are. And we judge ourselves, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Look at all the good that I have in my life. But we all have suffering, but we can also feel like, woe is me, it's only me, and that just plummets us, right? But in order to have compassion for ourselves, we can say suffering is a part of life. I'm not alone. There are others suffering, and I have a support system as well. We're all going through something, but we're there to help each other, right? We all struggle in our lives. I'm not the only one. Like the world has something against me, and especially if we have that injustice wound, we could think that everybody's against us, right? And another thing we can do is say, I'll be kind to myself, or I'm going to be patient with myself. I forgive myself. And we could find great relief from that by just affirming that we're experiencing suffering. It's a difficult time in our lives, but it's a natural part of life. This too shall pass. It won't be here forever, right? And those of us that are Christians, we really have a hope for the future. So nothing is permanent, because that level of that permanence that we put in our mind, like, this is it. Oh my God, you talk about depression and discouraging and feeling down. Wow. That, that could put you in bed for weeks because there's no hope. It's just despair. But no. And I'm going to be kind to myself, patient with myself, accepting of myself. I'm going to let whatever emotion comes come, and we'll deal with it as they come. I'm human. And there goes the self-compassion. Okay. So those are two exercises we can do to develop self-compassion, because we normally don't do it. We're all that and everything else for everybody else, but we leave nothing for ourselves. What did Leah say? A moment, not eternity. Love that. Yes. Chika MB says one thing is doing it to ourselves, but how about to others? Yeah. PJ says go to the stores where the flowers are near the front door before you change your mind, because we deserve flowers. Why not? Right? We get them for other people. Right? I forgive myself. Yeah. And just be a little sweeter. It takes time. It really does take time, but it works because it's a retraining of the mind. We're so used to doing things for decades one way, and it's the way our parents taught us. But now we can learn another way. And we're going to be patient with that process as well. Like, I've been trying this, and it takes time. Be kind to ourselves. Okay. So we're talking about managing the wound of injustice. We said recognize the wound was number one. Number two was accept vulnerability. People like, oh, vulnerability. Number three, develop self-compassion. I gave you two examples of how to develop self-compassion. And number four is coaching. Therapy is a way to explore the emotions. What am I feeling? Connect the dots. Where does this anger come from? Oh, it's from, I thought it was right now. It's from way back then. A coach can help you identify thought patterns and emotions associated with the wound, because the wound is there and it's open until it's healed. It's just open. So anytime a boop, a bump, a scratch, or whatever, ouch, ouch, right? And we react in different ways that can be very damaging. Self-sabotage, horrible inner dialogue, all the things, right? A coach can help you to develop new coping strategies to heal, explore the emotions, and live your life without all that baggage. It's a wonderful process. Number five, work on perfectionism. I know if you're a perfectionist, it's hard, but notice how you can do it. Reduce, not eliminate. It's hard, but reduce excessively high expectations of yourself and others, and accept that perfection is unattainable. It's not possible. And it will relieve inner, because it's an internal pressure that you put on yourself to be perfect. No one is perfect. No one is expecting you. And those that are expecting you to be perfect, they need some healing, right? Let it go. reduce. If it's way up here, bring it down. You'll be happier. You'll feel less pressure. Here's another quote that I love. At its root, perfectionism isn't really about deep love of being meticulous, because I like it's about fear of making a mistake, fear of disappointing others, fear of failure, fear of success. Whoa. So, what's a way to improve? We all have someone in our lives that we say, that's a balanced person. I like her or him. I admire how he lives his life. Well, ask that. It has to be a balanced person and someone that you trust. Ask them for your opinion. Do you think it's excessive to clean the way I clean? Do you think it's excessive the way that I live? I do my job. I handle my household. Someone that you can trust and that they in their lives show balance. That's a way that you. But it takes humility. And again, remember, you're really going against the core because a wound of injustice, that person rigid. I don't accept external opinions. I know what I'm doing. I do, right? I'm self-sufficient. So it, yeah. Okay, listen at this. Another quote. Perfectionism is a self-destructive and addictive belief system that fuels the primary thought. If I look perfect and do everything perfectly, I can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of shame, judgment, and blame. That's Brene Brown. But it's self-destructive. We don't want to self-destruct. We don't want to self-sabotage. We're here to do self-care, self-love, self-compassion, right? This is a whole different game here. Another one, perfectionism can be a form of protection if we've experienced trauma, emotional pain, or rejection in the past. Perfectionism is our attempt to outwork and outsmart every feeling that ever feeling that way again. And the last quote, perfectionism distracts us from what's important. All of the efforts in taking care of other people's needs teaches us to ignore our own. We prioritize getting right over getting to know ourselves. I love that. Dr. Jen Official. Love that. So we have to do better. And now that we know better, we're going to do better, right? And number 6 is what we talked about 2 weeks ago. Strengthening our self-esteem. It's so important to work on building healthy self-esteem that doesn't rely on external validation, but on intrinsic self-worth. I know I have value. I love myself. We look ourselves in the mirror and we can say it. It's another exercise we can do. And the last video, if you haven't seen it, it was part 2 of the rejection wound. We talked about 10 ways to build our self-esteem. We all need to work on our self-esteem, building it up. For all these reasons, the different wounds, our self-esteem have plummeted, and it reflects in the way that we live. So we want to do better, right? So healing the wound of injustice, does it take time? Oh, yes, it does, because it's so intrinsic, right? It's so a part of us. But with the right support and personal commitment, it's possible to live a more balanced life, free from the constant need for external validation. We want to work on ourselves. We want to do good. Hey, Shawnee, thanks for coming. Good to have you here. You made it. Good to have you. So that's all, folks, for tonight. I ended with 4 minutes to spare. We got through it. It was good. If you have any comments, please join the chat. If you're not a part of the chat, I have an emotional wellness WhatsApp chat. Please join. Alejandro, si puede poner el chat ahí, he's going to put the link. It's also, if you're watching this afterwards, it's going to be in the notes below this. If you want to reach out to me, KarenMCoach@gmail.com. Karen M as in Marinez coach@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. We're going to keep talking about this next week. Take the time to self-evaluate, listen to yourself. Is this something that I go through? How can I work on it? If you took notes, or you could watch this again and take your notes. I want to work on this. I want to be more compassionate with myself. I want to speak sweeter words, sweet nothings to myself more often instead of such criticism. We see we have stuff to do. Good and juicy. Thanks, Coach Karen. You're welcome. It's a privilege. You all know I love being here. Loose, Narano, thank you. Sorry I caught the end, but it was all so good. So glad you enjoyed. I gotta go. Love you guys. See you next week. Put stuff in the chat. Let me know what you've been up to, how you're doing as far as self-care, showing self-love, compassion. Let's share with each other. And we're getting better. We're healing, right? We're doing great. Big hugs to you. Kisses. See you soon. Bye-bye. See you next week.
If you're watching this video, it is because you're looking to make changes and create order in your environment, which is a reflection of how orderly your cranial universe is. Yes, your wonderful brain is asking for a change. When we created this workshop called UKO with 4 masterclasses for full activation, the first thing I did was to put it in practice in my life. Here in Vimes, everything that we teach is effectively tested, and in my case, the results were amazing. The truth is that when your brain is organized, everything around you becomes organized. As explained by Tao Rivallo, a psychologist who specialized in cognitive behavioral therapy, cleanliness and order greatly influence our mental health. Human beings tend to always search for a balance, both internally and externally, and that has to do with our environment. If we look around, everything requires order, even in nature. So we're programmed for that order. I've experienced enormous changes in my life by applying certain things. I thought I was a very organized person, but the truth was I didn't realize I was rigid. So the question arises, what is the difference between being orderly and being rigid? Well, our health helps us to answer that question. If to keep your environment clean and beautiful and your life in order with an agenda and a good schedule, you end up with body pain, pain in your back, a tense neck, I assure you that you are rigid. You're not enjoying the process of being organized. This is a sign that enters your brain, and the brain then sends that message to your beautiful body. And there go the aches and pains. On the contrary, if you enjoy doing what you're doing while you're doing your chores, you fulfill your daily goals, you start by writing them down without spending a whole lot of time on it and no stress, then it means you're doing it really well. You're relaxed. And your body's like, this is good. It tells you when you finish your task to even applaud yourself and say, job well done. Now rest. That was my case. And then that was of the first participants as well, their experience of the masterclass UKO, which is short for Organized Cranial Universe. From rigidity when organizing their environment and their life in general, they discovered that flexibility is the key, and they began to see with each workshop challenge that organizing can be relaxing and positive in every aspect. Now let's talk about the benefits you'll get by doing your UKO workshop. First, you'll learn simple techniques that are very effective when it comes to organizing yourself at home, work, or even with schoolwork. Your personal organization from this moment will be very different. The second is you will optimize your mental health while your environment is organized, achieving full balance. Remember, mental health is fundamental in every aspect of our lives. Third, you will enjoy the accompaniment of an instructor who's a coach. You'll have daily communication with her and with your classmates. This is something other online academies do not offer. You will have the skills to put into practice with your family and with everyone else who wants to. And we could also mention that the support material you receive is unlike any other. In the information of this masterclass UCO, you have everything in detail regarding the benefits of doing this amazing, organized cranial universe workshop.